Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Yeah, happy Friday. I hope you're doing well and that you've managed to do a little bit of a check-in with yourself this morning. As I always say, do that personal daily inventory where you check in on yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. I just noticed my really bad suntan, which is from April, I believe, when I was in Gran Canaria, and I got burnt. Anyway, you don't need to know about that. I think maybe you're here for a little bit of inspiration, hopefully some joy and some laughter. Sometimes there can even be tears. I had tears last night again. The tears just keep on coming. I discovered that the Happy Place podcast is on YouTube. And I didn't realize that actually. I didn't think they would put it on YouTube, to be honest with you, but they have. And it's the extended version or a more extended version of my conversation with Fern Cotton. On the audio version, it's just about, they've edited it down to 15 minutes. And I've had a few people say to me, oh my God, yeah, we love it, but it's so short. If you go on the YouTube channel, it is about 10 minutes longer. So you get 10 minutes more of my conversation with Fern, which was a really great conversation. You know, I spoke to her for quite a while and it's been highly edited. So, yeah, good morning, Mohammed, over on LinkedIn. So, yeah, I'm live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube this morning, and most mornings this week. So, yeah, depending on my schedule, if I can get on there at 8 o'clock, I do. So yeah, I watched anyway. So on YouTube last night, I watched the Happy Place podcast, Your Stories. Go check it out. Mine is the second story on YouTube. On the audio version, I'm first. And yeah, I cried when I watched myself back. It's always that 20-minute bit that gets me when I talk about that bit, which of course is very meaningful to me and very deep to me because of what I went through at that time. And I think what I was struggling with at that time, and is a little bit what I want to talk to you about this morning, is I was struggling to manage my emotions. And maybe you've been there. I'm pretty sure we've all been there at some point where we literally, all the emotions we're feeling, all the feels that we're feeling, we struggle to manage them. And this was definitely me at that time in 2020. And there is, as I said in the podcast, there's this psychology around what us humans can bear, what weight we can bear, what difficulties we can bear. And I guess if we have one big challenge, most of us can do okay. And you know, my marriage broke down, and it was you know, a very unhappy time for me. And then my dog got sick, who wasn't, you know, he was only 9. He shouldn't have been sick and dying, but he did die. But I also knew that my dad was dying. He had cancer, and then he broke his hip, and the cancer had spread to his hip, and the doctor had told us, yeah, he wasn't going to live too much longer. So that was a really difficult time. And so I struggled because there was layers of loss and grief all on top of one another. So 3. And it was just too much. I couldn't manage my emotions at that time. And this is the thing, right? So when we struggle to manage our emotions, of course, life is very, very tricky. And I guess, you know, I did my best to adapt and to adjust to the breakdown of my relationship. And I learned a lot of lessons from that, no question, looking back. And so today I called this session, and actually this session will go out on my podcast. It starts with you. So if you're listening on that, thank you for tuning in. Please share it and like and comment. And to all of you, like, I love your comments and your shares. I get quite a few messages in my inbox, which I really love getting. I've had loads of messages around the Happy Place podcast. Somebody listened to it in New Zealand. Like, I just think that's bonkers, right? Somebody the other side, literally the other side of the world, has listened and messaged me about the podcast. Isn't the power of technology wonderful? I know sometimes it can be absolutely frustrating but sometimes it's just wonderful that you can reach people on the other side of the world. So to have that message was phenomenal. Um, so yeah, what I was called today's live was what makes you break and not move forward. And I was thinking about that because um, I've got a client that's got some real challenges at the moment and struggling to move forward. And they're quite rigid in their thinking. Good morning, by the way, over on Instagram as well. Um, and when we're rigid in our thinking, um, it can make life very difficult. Um, and you have to learn to adjust. This is how we manage, having that emotional agility and flexibility. But we need to have that with everything. When we've got a really strong will, whilst on the one hand that can be great, this there's a quote that goes, "The strongest will is the will that oh, hang on, that knows how to bend." The strongest will is the will that knows how to bend. It's a great quote. Can't remember who said it. But it's like when we have this strong will, like I said, it's it's great because it makes us determined and probably quite disciplined, but it doesn't make you always adaptable and flexible. And when we have things and situations that happen, we have to have a level of flexibility. So if you're not moving forward and you are, yeah, it's a great quote, right? And you've been, maybe you feel like you've been broken before, or yeah, you just can't move from where you are. Have a look and think about, how flexible am I being? Because when we're rigid in our thinking and some of our behaviors, it can actually be the thing that breaks us. If you think about a tree that's as hard as anything, unlike a bamboo that can sway and literally bend right over and not break, right? Bamboo is flexible, adaptable. Its roots are really deep and it takes a long time to grow. But once it's grown, it has all of this flexibility. Whereas you might have a rigid old tree that can't bend and can't move. And what happens is it snaps and it breaks and therefore can't move forward. It can't grow. So it's Dolly Parton that says you cannot change the wind, but you can adjust your sails, or something like that. And Jim Rohn says something similar about the sails, right? It's adjusting the sails, is setting your course and adjusting the sails, right? If you think you're going to launch your boat, you're going to step away from the shore. This is an analogy for your life or whatever you're progressing for. You're going to, hey Joe, good morning. You're going to get your boat and you're going to hop on board and you're setting the sail and you know your course, whatever it is you intend to be, to have, to do, and you've got your sails up and a storm might hit. What are you going to do? Like, you have to adjust your sails to get through that storm, right? There's probably no point running away from the storm. I have a fear of flying, so I learned to fly. I had some flying lessons. I didn't get my PPL, but I had some flying lessons which I loved. And this is me. This is how I overcome my fear, right? I go to the fucking extreme. Like, I hate flying. What can I do? Oh, how about learning to fly, and learning about what it's all about? And that's what I did. But one thing I learned when I learned to fly is this: you don't fly away from the storm. Makes sense, right? And this is what the buffalo does. The buffalo is the only wild animal that runs into the storm. Makes sense. If you're an animal and and a storm hits, most animals run away from it. Like, run, 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 run. All the wild animals, except for the buffalo, who turns and faces the storm and goes through it. But you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. You have to, it's like the setting of the sail. Like I said, when the storm hits, you're going to have to adjust your sails, right? To get through it, to get round it, to navigate your way. Life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change, by your growth. And one of the key things about that is learning to be adaptable, learning to be flexible, and adjusting your sail when the course doesn't become the course, when you go off the path, when you hit a bumpy road. Uh, Good morning, Lauren. And You never know what life is going to throw at you. And like I said, I have this client at the moment that's quite rigid in their thinking, and something we're working on together is their ability to be more adaptable and more flexible, because actually sometimes you're going to butt up against things being that rigid, and you're going to keep butting up, and the same patterns are going to keep happening. So it's a definition of insanity, right? To keep doing the same things expecting a different action. You know, when Edison made the light bulb 10,000 times it took, but he didn't do the same thing 10,000 times in order for that to happen. You have to do different things, only slightly different things. So like I said, life is way easier when we learn to be adaptable and flexible to all the different situations that come our way. When you run away from the storm, you eventually end up meeting your fear later again anyway. You do, and it's worse. Like, you've wasted all this life. You've deprived yourself of all this happiness, right? Because you've spent your whole life running. Like, and I did that a lot. I ran away from the pain, the suffering. I suppressed it. I pushed it down instead of turning to face the storm and finding a way to go through, which made me more resilient. And I, you know, I was talking to lovely Mavel the other day, and we were talking about the word strong. And I don't necessarily believe that I am strong, but I know that I'm resilient. And that's forged from facing the storm, eventually facing the storm. And I know so many people that won't face the storm, that just keep butting up against things, whether that is about some trauma, whether that is about a relationship, the job, the boss, the work, whatever the project that you're trying to do. You have to change the setting of the cell. You have to have flexibility. And ultimately, resilience is forged in our flexibility and our adaptability. You know, sorry, that's a phone call. We have to learn to, you know, adapt. And otherwise, sometimes you can actually be depriving yourself of happiness. And I know through Pronoia that actually, if I look back at my life, and I'm pretty sure this is for you as well, if you look back on your life and you think of all the difficult things that happened, and when they happened, how did you manage your emotions? How adaptable were you? How flexible were you? Did you think that you would never get through this? Did you think this was like the changing, and not in a good way, that life would never be the same again? Because I have, you know, things have happened that I felt like that. But I know, looking back at all of those things, that things have got better on the flip side of it. Things have improved for the flip side of it. Like, I absolutely, hi Alexandra, how you doing? Good to see you. If you've got any questions or any comments, please drop them in. And I forgot my train of thought now. Yeah, it's just like, you know, like, I know things have been improved through those things, and not the opposite way around. Yes, I was in the fire in the beginning and it was difficult, and you may be doing the same thing, but you have to learn. You can't fight life. If you fight life, you're only going to lose 100% of the time. I don't know who said that. It's a bloody great quote. I'm sure somebody said it. I didn't make that up, I don't think. But you can't, you know, if you fight life, you're going to lose 100% of the time. When my relationship broke down, yeah, I was gutted, but I was actually also accepting, in a lot of pain, and accepting it. And I fought myself more than anyone in that time, which, again, you know, the biggest battle we have is definitely the battle with ourselves, our internal battles and internal narrative. And yeah, so I guess the question for you today is, how flexible and adaptable are you? Is the project you're working on going forward? And if it's not, are you doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? Are you open to listening to other people's ideas? Soul Attraction Marketing saying, oh my God, yes, when my son's mental health went downhill, I thought things would never be the same. Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry to hear about your son as well. And my mental health went downhill massively. And when we struggle to manage our emotions, life is fucking difficult. It really is. And so, Emotional Agility, there's a great book. I don't know if I've got it on my shelf. Here it is. Emotional Agility. I forget the woman who wrote it. Get Unstuck, Embrace Change and Thrive in Work and Life by Susan David. Oh my God, what is this number? This is the book, Emotional Agility by Susan David. It's a really good book. Like you can see, I've underlined stuff in here. Bottling up. It's talking about has a negative effect on relationships. It really does. Oh, I love this line. I'll just read it to you. The irony of bottling things up. It feels like it gives us control, but actually it denies us control. Oh my God. Boom, bada boom, bada bing. Yes, it does. It denies us control. I've heard of that and I'll add it to my list. Yeah, get it and let me know what you think. Sorry, I don't know your name. I just got your username on Instagram. Alexandra saying, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Is that the quote? Is it Alexandra? I just shortened it then. When you fight life, you lose, but only 100% of the time. What are you saying, oh my God, for? Morning, Nathan. Happy Friday. Sorry, it's me, Sam. Oh yeah, Sam. Hey, how you doing? And Alexandra said Byron Katie. No wonder. Another great book. Like, do I have that? That one's got to be on my shelf. It is. Let me show you it. Sorry, I'm still in my pajamas. This book. Oh my God. Get this book. Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And there's more, there's pages. Look, I've written bloody words in it. It's just amazing. Such an amazing book, such an amazing woman. And she gives you, in this book, you get real practical questions and things to ask yourself and to help you deal with relationships. One of the greatest questions you're going to get from this book, and what I've taken from this book, and there's always, when it's a good book for me, there's usually just one bit that I take. And from that Byron Katie book is the question, is that true? 3 words. Is that true? When you're going, you always do that. Why do you always do that? You never show up. You never and always. Is that true? Never, always. Ask yourself that, especially when you're arguing with your boss, your partner. Is that true? And learning to love what is. And that's how you don't fight life, right? It's like learning to love what is. And what is that? That's flexibility. That's learning to be adaptable. Because you're setting the sail, you don't keep the sail set in the same way. You have to adjust it. You have to, sometimes the sail got to come down. Sometimes the sail got to go up and be adjusted in direction. And this is how we approach life. This is how we don't break down. This is how we move forward when we're adaptable and flexible. Yeah, that quote is a great quote, right? It is a really good quote. So that, I hope that's been helpful this morning. If you're stuck, if you feel like, things have broken and you don't know how to move forward, it's learning to be adaptable and flexible. Listen to other people's ideas, be open. We can't always agree on everything. And this is a big thing about relationships. And we've just done a load of stuff on relationships in the Breaking Your Own Limits program. And, with your partner or your boss or whoever, your friends, you can't always agree. You've got to learn to find a way to disagree nicely and to argue well with your partner or whoever. And this comes from adaptability and flexibility and being open and willing to listen to other people's ideas and insights. We can learn something from everyone and every situation if only you're willing to open your eyes and look. Anyway, it's Friday. You're at the end of the week. I hope that it's not feeling like a super ace day because you're going into the weekend, because that would make me think that you don't really like what you're doing in the week, which is not a great way to be living your life. Christina says, I have this with my boss. Okay, have what with your boss? And at the end of the day, like if your boss is that way or your partner's that way, you can't control someone else. You can't coerce them into being the way that you want them to be. The only thing you have full control over is you. And it's important to remember that. That's why I always say it starts with you, because it reminds me that is the one thing in my control. When I felt very emotional and out of control, like in 2019 and 2020, it starts with you was like, that thing was like, okay, I'm holding up, like it starts with me. I have to take responsibility. I can't change what my partner did. I can't change the fact that my dog died and my dad died and that cancer fucking sucks. Can't change any of that. But I can change and choose how I show up and how I adjust and how I adapt. And I had to adapt, I had to adjust, I had to be flexible, and it will work the same for you. Good morning, Alexandra. Happy arguments. Oh, you have this with your boss. Oh, actually, it's a good thing. I love that. Woohoo! Yeah, let's have or disagreements. Yeah, happy arguments. It's learning to argue and disagree well. It's being open to each other's point of views. You still might not agree, but that's how we grow together, and that's how your relationships will be better. All relationships, when we can do that, we respect one another, have more resilience and adaptability around these conversations. You don't need to be right. Never. You don't. It's not about being right. Take the higher ground. Like, we've all got a different view. All of these are all different. Everyone is completely different. Sam says, I do like a good disagreement. I don't really like them. I'm not going to lie. I hate confrontation. And it's always something I struggled with. I used to laugh because I was so uncomfortable with disagreements when I was younger. I just laugh. And if someone does that, know that it's not because they think it's funny. It's because they're fucking massively uncomfortable and don't know how to manage the conversation. I know it used to piss my partner off, but it was just like, fuck, I don't like this. Nathan is off for the weekend. He's having a party. Enjoy yourself, Nathan. Today I'm going to be on BBC Radio Sussex and Surrey at 10 a.m. Please come and listen. Talking about, I hope we're going to be talking about managing adversities, and also about being on the Happy Place podcast with Fern Cotton. And then I'm going to be recording my own podcast. It Starts With You. Go check out my podcast. It's called It Starts With You. But I'm going to be recording a feature-length episode. So some of you might be listening to this on replay on the podcast. Go check out another episode, which is coming in July. It's the longer version of what I had a conversation with Fern about. If you listen to the podcast, it's like 15 minutes long, my section. If you go on YouTube and look for Happy Place Podcast, you get to see my face and me interacting with Fern. And that is about 24 minutes long. So you get about 9 or 10 minutes more conversation between me and Fern. I didn't realize that until last night when I watched it, and I cried. Cried watching myself. It's that 20-minute bit. Just gets me. I said this at the beginning of this, but I'm saying it again. So go check that out on YouTube. You'll get more of the conversation. But there was even more around that conversation, and I'm going to record that today. My friend Ginge Unhinged, go check her out if you're on Instagram, is going to be my interviewer, and we're going to talk about my life and stuff like that. So I'm doing that today, which is awesome. I'm really looking forward to that for a Friday. I don't work too hard on a Friday. I do my best to take the Friday afternoon. Do you work 5 days a week? Are you your own boss? Do you give yourself flexibility of hours? That's one of the greatest gifts of working for yourself, I'm telling you. So these things I'm getting to do today, speaking on the radio, recording the podcast, speaking on stages and stuff like that, that shit I get a lot out of. Makes me feel alive. I love inspiring people, and it really does light me up, stuff like that. And that's really important for us all, to find time to be doing these things that make us feel alive and of value to the world. And this is the stuff that makes me feel of value to the world, and has more meaning. And therefore, if I have more meaning, I feel more fulfilled and I have a purpose. And this is kind of like a little cycle that we work through in Breaking Your Own Limits. So if you want to check out that, the next cohort is in September. I'm going to find you the link so I can put it on the screen. Go to sam-adams.com/feel alive, FEELALIVE, Feel Alive. And you can find out about that program. It starts in September. And you'll see some testimonials on there from some women that have done it. That all the 8 that have just graduated have done phenomenally well. And I'm pretty sure they would all tell you that it's transformed their life. And I'm so freaking proud of them. Sam is saying, I hate confrontation, but I like a good disagreement with my hubby only. Oh, yeah, no, I just don't like it. Same. I take Friday afternoon off. It's my reboot. Yeah, I love that. Take it off. And Fridays are defo my day off and meaningful day. Awesome. All these people working themselves at taking Fridays off. I love it. Love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. I have to go. I've been on here for 25 minutes, which is a bit longer than normal. Do not forget, today is a non-refundable day. What will you do with this day? See it as your first day, your last day, because remember, it is your only day. It's not just another day. Don't get to tomorrow and then someone comes up to you and says, hey, what did you do yesterday? And you say nothing, unless it's an intentional nothing, as in a spa day and I did nothing, or I read and did very little, but nothing of meaning or value. Like, don't get to that. Every day is meaningful. Every day is precious. What will you do today? How will you go into today? Maybe take some breaths on that and think into your heart space around that. That can really help, and set some intentions for today. And remember that, around everything I've been talking about today, that it starts with you. That's the only thing ultimately you can control. Take the higher ground, learn to be flexible and adaptable, and have an open mind. Talking of open minds, on Tuesday evening, I have a breathwork class live online on Zoom. And all you need to do is bring yourself a towel, a blanket, a cushion, and an open mind is what I always say. Bring an open mind. It is the most experiential, amazing thing you're ever going to have. And I've got some sessions coming up. I'm doing some workshops in September. I'm going to be doing a workshop for Dame Kelly Holmes's Military Emotion group. So if you're not part of that, go check that out on Instagram. So I'm going to deliver some stuff for her group. And yeah, lots of exciting things coming up. Sam says, I've just booked this morning. Amazing. Anybody else coming to breathwork? Come on. Tuesday. I will see you there. Have yourself an amazing day. Thank you for watching and listening on podcasts. And I'll catch you all next week. Have a great week.